So, so experimental design, like I said, you need to have randomization where you have a treatment group, where you have a control group. Control group are not going through that experiment. That means think of that model retail outlet. Some customers who are not going through that sales promotion program, who have not seen that new packaging, who have not seen that new pricing. So they are the control group. So they have not seen the changes in the whatever phenomena we are measuring. But the treatment group are those customers who have gone through or who are going through or who are seeing those changes, right? And we are trying to measure by changing our pricing, by changing our packaging, by changing the color of the items. Is there any change in sales, right? So that is where your experimental design comes into picture, and there are different types of experimental design. Then when you talk about survey design, though we say that we are measuring certain cause and effect, but we are not actually measuring cause and effect. Cause and effect only can be measured in a experimental design when we are running ANOVA or like kind of certain advanced conjoint analysis. If we are not doing that, what we are doing, we are trying to measure the relationship, and that is where the definition changes. Whenever we are trying to study survey research design through a hypothesis, we are just telling, okay, these things are related, right? And these are the things we are measuring. But when doing actual experimental design, then only I can say that, okay, by changes of this by this much amount, there will be a change in my dependent variable. If I change, let's say, my packaging size by um, or my packaging color from, let's say, red to green, there is a probable change of sales by 2%, right? And that is where my experimental design will come into picture. But same thing if I do it in a survey research design, what I'll say that, okay, if change of color has a relationship, change of your package color has a relationship with your sales, by how much, if my color changes to this, how much sales will change, I'll not able to tell in my survey research design. But at least your marketer will have a knowledge that, okay, my atmosphere in a retail outlet or the color of the packaging has a impact, has a relationship with my sales, and that is where they will try to change that, right? But in both the cases, the main point is that you have to collect data, you have to study that, you have to analyze that, and make a judgment, help the marketer to take certain decisions, right? So now comes the most important part of survey research design, which we did not discuss in business research methods knowingly, because that time it would have been too complex. Most of you would have lost interest. See, measuring things is difficult if it is a something related to humans. That all of us understand. And happiness, happiness. If I think about as a concept, what does happiness mean to me and what does happiness mean to you is different. Your idea of a leisure, or your idea of a travel experience, or your idea of a, let's say, movie experience is completely different than me. When you go to a retail outlet, or when you go to purchase something, or when you go to visit a mall, your kind of whatever you want to explore is completely different from me. So it's completely different from hundreds of similar people also, right? And that is where measurement becomes difficult, because what we are doing a survey trying to understand, okay, on what price point you will buy a certain product, or on which are the colors you like, or which are the like kind of packaging you like. If that is what we want to understand, for each of the person it varies. But what we are trying to do through a survey, we want to make a generalization. Okay, these people, I did a survey of 1,000 people, and this is the result, which might be true for a population, right? So this is where some definitions we have to understand. Again, don't worry about the like kind of, no need to remember the definitions, right? Because that is not the goal of this subject. What you have to remember or understand is why it is important, why it is required, right? So there is something called construct, right? And I'll discuss that in little detail for next 4 or 5 slides, because that is what we are going to measure throughout our next whatever, whenever we do this quantitative analysis, right? So what do you mean by construct? Construct is something, some abstract concept which you are able to measure, right? Think about in this way. When I tell that, okay, this person is very intelligent, right? Intelligent is a concept. Intelligence is a concept, right? But how do I know that? So for that to measure intelligence, I will start creating. So I'll have one theoretical definition of intelligence. Okay, these are the things. If person has these kind of things, that person is known as intelligent. Okay. Then how do I measure that? So this is the definition. But if I start measuring that, so when I'm comparing two persons or few persons, I need to have certain things called scale. To bring a scale, I need to have a definition. Then what I'm going to trying to measure. So that is the meaning of construct. Construct is nothing but an abstract concept which is measurable. So whenever we want to try to build certain relationship between certain constructs, so that is theory. So think about all those consumer behavior theory you have studied, all the marketing theory, B2B theories, you have some Maslow's need hierarchy, or your theory of control, theory of purchase, anything what you have studied, right? How your behavior affects your attitude, attitude affects your action, right? Or your AIDA model, right? Any model marketing you have studied, all things what they do, they try to find a relationship between those constructs. And if that study is applicable across world, true across world, that becomes a theory. So if I say that, okay, in Odisha, whenever let's say this holiday season, Holi or let's say Ratha Yatra season happens, there is an increase in sales for certain item. If that same thing I can replicate, if that study can be done across world, that okay, whenever holiday season happens, these are the things people buy more, right? And if that study I can replicate across world, and then that will become a theory, right? So we'll come back to that later on when we discuss certain marketing theory and start to carry out certain research on that. So now the question is, what do we mean by construct and what are the definition of that? So concept of something, like I said, intelligence, right? So I say that, okay, this is somebody is more intelligent or somebody is, it can be very simple also. Somebody is more wealthy, right? Wealth becomes a concept. Then how do I measure wealth? So somebody will say that wealth has different definitions. Wealth can be your financial wealth. Wealth can be your mental wealth. Wealth can be your spiritual wealth. Or wealth can be your family wealth, number of close friends or close family members you have and you are connected with. So those things becomes your construct. So if I'm talking about financial wealth, how am I going to measure it? Based on your bank balance, based on your properties and all those things, that is easy to measure. But when I talk about your mental health, then measuring that construct becomes a little difficult. And in marketing science or in marketing or any kind of social sciences, these are the things we are most interested in, right? If somebody is feeling happy, his mental wealth is better, then only he will go and buy some things or make go through certain experiences, right? So I am interested in that, which is a little abstract. So whenever there is an abstract concept and we are trying to measure it, so like I said, wealth is a concept, and how am I going to measure it? There are different constructs for it: financial wealth, mental wealth, your spiritual wealth, your family wealth. So those that becomes contract. And how am I going to measure it? If I say financial wealth, your bank balance, property, all those combination will become a variable. If I am able to measure that variable, so I'm measuring that construct, that concept of wealth. Operationalization is basically how you are going to measure it. So I define that, okay, I'm going to measure family wealth. So that is the, sorry, financial wealth. So that is the construct I'm interested in. How I'm going to measure it? I'm going to measure each one, those participant, those respondent, their properties, bank balance, so liquidated asset, fixed asset, everything, then combine that, and that will give me, so those variables I'm going to measure, and that is going to give me the result of what is their financial wealth, right? So think about something, some constructs towards marketing area, right? Learning. So what is the knowledge of that person's learning about your brand? So if I go and ask that, okay, whether if I go and ask certain persons, name top clothing brands, which you can top three clothing brands, right? So that is the brand recall. A loyalty, how many times they are purchasing my products. Motivation, whether a respondent is motivated to buy certain items. So consumer needs. So I'll try to measure their needs. How frequently, how different choices they make to, or how much effort they put to make those choices. Think about your daily needs, toothbrush or certain items you eat. You are not spending a lot of time, and that is where your how much effort you put for those things. Some things which are habitual decision making. You go and just buy. You do not think of that. Okay, there are 5 toothpaste brands which one I should choose. But whenever you are buying a cloth, or whenever you are buying, let's say, your bike or car, you are going to put a lot of effort, right? Then perception about product, perception about advertisement content, right? In advertisement research, that is where your perception, whether the advertisement is able to build a certain perception what the product manager or marketing manager wanted. Then decision making, attitude, personality. So any kind of marketing construct you can think of which we want to measure, we'll have a construct. According to construct, we have to build, if there are existing variables, existing scales we have to use, or we have to create variables, right? So this is a little bit, don't get into or get disheartened by these things, but this generally shows that what we are going to measure may not be the true thing, right? So let's say circle A denotes the one marketing construct which is about the product quality. What a customer feels about the product quality. Think about the phone what you are using, right? And what is the quality of that product. So there are many things which is in your mind which builds the definition of product quality, and that is only you know, right? If I want to understand what is your perception about that product quality, right? What I'm trying to find is this circle B, because that is my definition. As a researcher, I'm trying to find out the product quality, and for me the product quality is definition may be whether battery quality is high, whether the screen quality is good, whether running you have been using it for a let's say more than 1 year without any difficulty, right? So that is my definition, which I have created based on certain qualitative research. I have gone to experts, I have gone to different manufacturers. Based on those study, I have created my definition. But my definition will be different from your understanding, your definition. Like I said, the happiness for you, the meaning of happiness will be completely different. For me, when I'm trying to measure happiness as a researcher, that is something will be different, right? So that is what I'm trying to measure. So A is the true thing, true reality of your product quality. B is my definition. C is actually through that variable. If I write those questions, okay, I'll measure those product quality through these 5 questions. So the answer which I'll get actually will be of C. So think that, okay, if the true thing is reality is A, at the end I am able to only manage to measure or find C, right? The small portion of the true reality, right? And that is where we need to remember why sometimes market research fails, because there will be always will not able to find the true reality. If I want to understand the product quality, each of you will have a different. If I ask you that what does product quality of a phone means to you, what does the product quality of the phone what you are using means to you, each one of you, if you do not search on Google, will have a different answer. But when I go and define product quality on my own, that will be completely different than you, and that is what I'm trying to measure, and that is where the difficulty will come. So my definition and what I'm trying to measure is the C circle, which is not actually the circle of A, the dotted circle, right? And that is why I'm showing you this is no matter how much effort we put, we will be missing out something. That is the true nature of marketing research or any research. No research can say that, okay, we'll be exactly measuring 100% of the things, right? Any question or any doubt up to this point? So how you start with building a construct? So first identify or define the theoretical definition. Sorry, I got disconnected. So I'll not spend much time on this because we are going to do these exercises later on. Just remember that the steps, first you build a definition, what we are trying to measure. If I say that, okay, why do consumers purchase our competitor's product, not ours, right? So then what I'm trying to measure? The difference between our products and competitors' products, or the difference between the attitude of customers towards our products and the competitors' products, right? So we have to be clear on that, right? Because when I say what is the difference between my product and competitor's product, those data is easily available. So I'll take one of my product and the other product. Let's say I want to measure why people are buying Maruti more than Tata Motors, or the one particular car from Tata. I'll take two cars and try to measure the differences in mileage, differences in prices. All those things are measurable, right? But that is something not what I'm trying to measure. That is already data is available. What I'm trying to measure, the attitude of purchase, or propensity to purchase certain cars in comparison to other cars. Then how I'm going to measure that. So that definition need to be very clear. Then examining the operational definition. So when we say that examining the operational definition, that whether that definition what I made, when I say that attitude, whether that is measurable. If I say that I want to measure customers' attitude towards certain brand, whether that is measurable, attitude is measurable, intelligence is measurable, or your confidence is measurable, can I measure that, right? Then validity and reliability will come back later on. So how to test validity and reliability and what is the definition of validity reliability, will come back to that later on. So think about the value of a product, right? Value of a, if I think that, okay, this product is certain value to me. So value of a product is a concept. How am I going to measure it? So value, a customer thinks that, okay, this product is value to me, is providing certain value to me, right? So that is a concept I'm trying to measure through certain things, right? How am I going to measure it? So let's say I did research and find out that from qualitative research, value to a customer, value the product provides to a customer comes from product quality, ease of usage, ergonomics, battery quality, and price. So these are the five sub-constructs which is defining the major construct is value, right? Value is something which is I am measuring. If there is a product value, that will give rise to the brand purchase intentions. Say at the end, as a business, I'm not interested in measuring this. I am measuring these things because I'm interested whether if a customer believes that a product has value, then only he is going to have certain purchase intention towards the brand. So I'm trying to measure whether value is related to brand purchase intentions. Brand purchase intentions, I'll put some questions and we'll try to measure it. Then how I'm going to measure the value of the product? Value of the product through qualitative research, I found out that, okay, when I talk about value of a product, I'll ask that, okay, all of you, like all those 19 students who are present today, I'll ask that, what does product value means to you? So you'll write a essay. So from that essay, I'll do this word cloud, or I'll go through and sentiment analysis. I'll do those word analysis, word count, and find out that, okay, these are the major themes which emerge. One was product quality. Product quality is coming from durability, reliability, ease of usage, ergonomics, battery quality, and price. So these are the five factors which is giving rise to the construct called value. So now what happens? I have to create questions to measure product quality, measure ease of usage, ergonomics, battery quality, and price, right? And that is where your questionnaire preparation comes into picture, right? Once I know that, okay, these are the few things I'm trying to measure, so I'll try to create questions, right? Sometimes what happens, somebody has already done a research, somebody has built a scale for you, right? You just use that for your own usage. If there are no scale, if there are no items on the existing literature, right? And that is where we talk about literature. If you go through different research papers, existing research, to find out whether somebody has already done those kind of research, then try to measure it. Then how am I defining this construct called product quality of a smartphone? Internal components break easily if phone is dropped, right? So one is like kind of very poor internal quality 7 is very good. Internal components do not break easily, phone is dropped. If somebody is clicking 7, that means it is not working. Whenever their phone fell down from their hand, the components still remain same, like there was no fractures, right? So that means the internal components are very robust in nature. Screen scratches easily, once or 7 do not scratches, screen doesn't scratch easily. Case is durable, is not very water resistant, is very water resistant. So if you see that if I ask these questions, what I'm trying to find out that about the durability and reliability of the product. All these 4 questions, based on the answers people give, will give me the result of product quality, right? So earlier, if you remember in BRM, what we are to study, we used to only ask 1 question or 2 questions. Do you like this product, or how will you rate this product from 1 to 10? So those were single item questions. Here in marketing research, we'll get into a little bit complexity where we are trying to measure the same thing with. So in if I just go with a single item question, how do you think rate your product, rate your product quality of your rate product quality of your uh, existing phone which you are using in a scale of 1 to 5. 5 is very good, 1 is very bad. So I can just ask a single question and get the answer. But what happens that I'll not get answer for other dimensions. When somebody is telling very poor, the phone might be performing in very good in other parameters, but maybe very poor because sometimes it fell down from his or her hand and it was not water resistant. So say he or she has to spend 3,000 rupees to get it repaired. So other parameters, other functions might be great about that phone, right? So that is where when you are measuring through a single item, right? So if you remember in BRM, the same thing, if you had studied. So product quality, okay, we'll put a Likert scale. How do you like the quality of your phone? 1, very poor quality. 2, poor. 3, neutral. 4 is good. 5 is excellent, excellent quality. So that is a Likert scale I'll put and I'll measure through single item. But then what happens? There are a lot of things we are missing out, right? So that is where when we talk about actual research, we try to measure the same thing through same construct through multi-item, right? Any questions on this? Or why we are like little bit differing what we discussed in BRM? So generally, if you remember that time what we used to put 1 question, then we try to measure it, right? But here we are most of the times we'll be using multi-item scale because that helps us to get more details for the same constructor, same concept what we're measuring. Think about in this way. When I talk about the overall intelligence of a person, earlier what was happened 30 years back, only IQ. Right now, IQ not the main thing. Apart from IQ, you have to think of EQ also. And now people have started thinking about something called the spiritual quotient, right? How like people uh, feels not about religion, but as what he or she thinks about own spirituality, right? That gives a lot of intelligence, right? So, so earlier if I say I can just measure, okay, I'll give you a test, whatever your score, the based on that score, I'll say that okay, this person is intelligent, but not right now. We are measuring several aspects, several dimensions of it, right? So let's say I want to measure brand awareness, right? So that is a construct, right? Question is, have you heard of brand A? Yes or no? So now what I'm measuring, how I'm if I ask that single item question, have you heard of brand A? Let's say out of 100 or 200 people I asked that question, 60 of them said yes, right? So what I'm actually measuring, percentage of respondent having heard of the brand, 60 by 200, that 30% is, so 30% is the brand awareness. So all these things what we're thinking of single item scale. Recall recognition of advertisement. Do you recall seeing an advertisement for brand A? In the obviously we have to mention not kind of infinite time, last 1 week, last 2 weeks, or last 3 weeks. If they recall, if somebody says yes, then out of 500 or out of 100 respondents, how many of them tell yes? So what we are measuring, the construct is recognition or recall of advertisement. How we are measuring, the variable is percentage who have seen that advertisement, right? Knowledge of product features, brand familiarity, comprehension of product benefits, right? When a phone is launching that, okay, this has a quad core processor with this much RAM, this much, let's say, screen size. That is a technical feature, whether a person actually understands what benefit that phone is bringing. So your bandwidth from 2.4 gigahertz to 5 gigahertz, what the difference does it make to a customer? If I use a 5 gigahertz bandwidth, how does it benefit, or what are the impact on my like phone usage if I use a 2.4 gigahertz bandwidth, right? So this is where we are measuring those attributes of the phone. Attitudes, feelings towards brand. So we can use a Likert scale, like I said. What do you feel about this product? What do you feel about a Maruti's brand or Tata's brand for certain car? Intention to purchase. What is the probability that you will buy brand A next time you purchase this product, right? So each of the respondent I asked that, those people say that okay, there is a 20% probability. Somebody says 80%. Somebody says 1%. I'm never going to buy this product. So I take average. So I'll come back and say that okay, on an average, there is a 33% probability that people will buy my product. But if you see all these questions, what I think, just talking about a single item, single aspect of the actual thing. Intention to purchase, if I just measure by this, why somebody is telling 80%, why somebody is telling 30%, I'll never know. And if I do not know that, how am I going to help the marketing, right? So I'm not telling single item scales are bad. Sometimes we do use single item scales, right? Because multi-item scales have their own difficulties also, right? The reliability validity factor comes, like sometimes it is very poor. Sometimes we'll be measuring the same thing with different questions, right? People will not answer so many questions. So that is something which is very difficult or problematic in survey question. If I ask you to answer 100 questions, people will not generally answer that many questions, right? That's why single item scales also have their advantages, right? Past purchase use, brand loyalty, satisfaction, right? So all these operational definitions have, which we have shown for single item scale. So this part I already have discussed. So we have theoretical concept or construct, then we are operationalize it. From that operational definition, we are measuring certain variable, right? So just to give and again repeat the example, theoretical concept and construct will be your wealth of a person. Then operationalized construct, I'm trying to measure the family wealth. How am I going to measure the family wealth? Maybe the bank balance, your properties, fixed properties, gold, shares, stocks, all those things. When I measure through different variables, those become the variables which are measuring the operationalized construct of family wealth, sorry, financial wealth, which is again a part of your overall wealth. So the idea is to measure a wealth of a person. How do you define wealth of a person? Or in the last, think about product quality. How do I measure like attitudes towards, or how a person understand about the product quality of a product? Then operationalized construct. So I define product quality is a combination of those 5 or 3 factors: durability, reliability, right? So if I say that product quality is defined by durability, reliability, how do I measure durability? How do I measure reliability? So that variable of durability, variable of reliability comes the variables, right? Sorry, it's again disconnected. Okay. So is there any question up to this point? So what we have discussed is basically how do you measure this different marketing concept, brand attitude, intention to purchase, brand awareness, loyalty, right? So again, like we have just gone through certain examples, need not be those are the things what you are going to use for your research or study. There are different methods, different scales, but that gives you an idea that okay, what we are truly want to measure may not be the one what we are measuring. There will be always certain differences, right? Theoretical concept, let's say brand awareness, right? Operationalized construct will be, let's say you measure the brand awareness through the recall or to the information the person has about the brand. Then how do you measure that information? So you'll say that okay, I'll ask him that okay, if he chooses 5 of the clothing brands or 5 of the car brands, name 5 car brands, top car brands. Name 3 of, out of those 5, name 3 which you want to buy, right? Name out of those 3, name one which is your dream brand, right? Like that, I'll go step by step, so that I'll know that, okay, where does my brand lie? Whether that person is aware about my brand, if that person is aware about my product or brand, whether my product or brand lies in that choice set, if ever he or she wants to purchase a car, whether my car or my brand of car is there in that choice set, then from that choice set, which is obviously the final choice he is going to make, right? Intention to purchase. So construct is something theoretical definition. Let's say I want to measure value of a construct A is value of the product to a customer. That is construct B is the intention to purchase. So what I'm telling in my theory, that if a customer sees value of a product, that intention of purchase will be higher. So there is a relationship between your intention to purchase, which is construct P, with value of the product the customer sees, not value in the price sense only. Price is a part of the value, right? So I saw those 5 dimensions of value, starting with product quality, ergonomics, brand, your price, right? So those are the 5 dimensions which is of a shows the value of a product to the customer. So that is constructed. So value, if there is a good value, if a customer sees good value of the product, then intention to purchase will increase. So there is a relationship between construct A and construct B. So we are being very careful saying that relationship. I'm not telling value of the purchase causes intention to purchase. Value of the product causes intention to purchase, unless I'm doing experimental design. In the survey design, what I'll say, there is a relationship between hypothetical relationship between construct A and construct B. Construct A is value that customer sees in that product. Construct B is intention to purchase. So how I'm going to measure it in reality? So this is a theoretical model I have, right? What I'm going to measure in actual study, the independent variable, those questions which I put regarding product quality, regarding pricing, regarding ergonomics, all those dimension question I put, I'm trying to measure. Then I'm trying to measure the dependent variable is intention to purchase. If given a choice whether a person is going to buy my product or not, then if there is a relationship, I'll maybe a regression or a correlation, I'll put that model. If there is a regression, if I am able to build a regression and let's say adjusted R square is good, 0.5 or 0.6 or 0.7, right? Then I'll come back and say that yes, there is a relationship between product value with intention to purchase. Then what happens out of those product value, those 5 dimensions? Now I'll know that, okay, the product manager or marketing manager is going to focus on the most important aspect. It might happen that price, the product manager might be thinking price is the most important aspect, but it looks like for certain product, ergonomics or the durability, product quality is the most important aspect. Then they'll try to focus that. They'll try to focus everything, all marketing effort on those dimensions rather than focusing only on pricing, right? So that is where your marketing research, if I come back and say that, okay, out of those 5 dimensions, so what dimensions we saw? Let's say product quality, ease of usage, ergonomics, battery quality, and price. And I build a regression model. Now what it says, the coefficient of price is very small. Product quality. So when I write that equation, y is equal to some constant plus beta 1 x1, beta 2 x2, like that I write an equation. When I write that equation, that y is nothing but your dependent variable is brand purchase intention is equal to some constant plus, let's say 10 multiplied by product quality plus 1.5 multiplied by price. So what does it mean? Your coefficient of product quality is high. If it is significant, p value is less, then I'll come back and say that product quality is the most important factor, most important dimension which helps in or which has a relationship with your dependent variable, which is intention to purchase. So now what happens? Let's see the changes in marketing. Now earlier product manager or marketing manager used to focus more on pricing. Whenever there is a change in competitors' pricing, they used to change that. Now they'll come back and put more focus on product quality or ergonomics or easy to handle, whatever the dimension which is more important than product quality. And this is how all your research will help the whatever you study will help you or the marketer who is going to take the decision, right? So this is how your independent variable and dependent variable, and we are trying to find the relationship. When we are doing the survey research, we only, though we do the same study, regression and all those things, but we'll be careful. We'll not tell that, okay, we are doing a causal thing. We will not say that, okay, value causes intention to purchase. We'll say that there is a relationship between product value, the customer sees what value that product has with the intention to purchase. So same thing, a little bit in detail. Theoretical relationship, there is a relationship between product value with your intention to purchase. Then how do I measure that product value? So I create 5 different constructs, right? Starting with product quality, your ergonomics, easy to handle, price, right? Dependent variable, intention to purchase. So that is a existing variable, right? Then how do I measure, right? So for that, I start creating those items or questions on durability, reliability, pricing. So those are the measures on which I'm going to measure those dimensions. Then measure 2 is measuring this construct 2, which is intention to purchase. Then I collect data, right? So to measure this measure 1, I collect data. So why we are in these 4 levels, right? So in each step, there will be certain errors. There will be certain mistakes from researcher. How do I define this concept to a construct? Might be different between different researchers. How I define this will be completely different how you define that same construct, right? Like I said, intelligence. Somebody only will define intelligence as the IQ, right? Somebody who has a lot of experience in that field, some psychologists, they'll say that no, IQ is not only one parameter of intelligence. IQ is the only parameter of intelligence. There are many other parameters, right? So there are different. So that is where your experience in that field makes a lot of difference. So if you are creating that questions, you need to have experience or somebody who can help you there. Then research hypothesis, how I'm going to measure it. Same constructs on what question, whether it is a single item question or multi-item question, right? Whether it is a Likert scale or comparative scales, right? Then, so there also in measuring, there will be some mistakes. Then when I collect data, additional mistakes will happen. Some customers, like you say, when you fill up those surveys, you just randomly put your answers, right? So those mistakes are there. Or somebody was not like did not have time, he just put some answers. Or somebody by typing while putting those like answers, it was a mistake. There are a lot of sampling mistakes. There are a lot of survey mistakes happen. So we are trying to actually measure what is a theoretical abstract, which is true reality, through the reality which you can define, then reality which you can measure, then the data we can collect. So in each step you will see when we are coming down, there will be certain errors and mistakes. And that is where if you see like when somebody says marketing research fails, it is not the failure of the technique. It is about the mistakes the researcher do in each step. Like I said, I just have to measure the value of a product. If as a researcher, I said that value of a product is the price of the product. That is the only item. Then I'm missing out the other aspect, other dimensions. Then I come back and say that no, value of the product is not related to the intention of purchase. It might be true, but because I have not measured the other dimensions, right? So this is how your theory and hypothesis is related. Hypothesis is something, some statement or some proposition which can be statistically or mathematically tested, because based on that we are trying to measure for a sample and trying to answer for a population, right? So these are few example of single item or multi-item measure. Think about customer satisfaction, right? And customer loyalty. I want to understand the relationship between customer satisfaction and customer loyalty. So for each of them, I can create a multi-item scale. Multi-item scale means for the same construct, I'm measuring through different items. So customer satisfaction, overall satisfaction of the product, right? Scale up 1 to 5, very unsatisfied to very satisfied. Satisfaction of expectations, right? And that is where if you remember, some of you have taken managing service operation, difference of service quality. Whatever they expected of this product, are that meeting that? Let's say you go to a restaurant, right? Overall satisfaction on that particular day, you get that question and you answer that overall satisfied. But whatever you expected before coming to the restaurant, you had certain expected, right? So that is the difference between perceived quality and expected quality. You expected something, now you are perceiving something different, right? Is there a difference, right? Then distance to the ideal. If I ask you that what will be your ideal experience for a travel or a going to a restaurant or going to a club, and how I matches if you come to my restaurant or if you come to my, let's say, this tourist destination through my tour program, what is the distance through that idea, right? So same thing, customer satisfaction, but I am measuring different dimensions, right? But if I go to the right side, I just can ask a single question, overall satisfaction. How happy or sad with your, or I can just ask a very basic question, are you satisfied or not with the experience what you got? Yes or no. So then it becomes a only single item scale. Same construct of customer satisfaction I can measure with multi-item, where I'm thinking about or asking three different dimensions of customer satisfaction. Here I'm measuring through only one dimension, customer loyalty. So there are 5 dimensions. Do you buy like cross buying along with your product? Do you buy some other item from the same brand? Recommendation. Do you recommend that net performance score, like net promoter score? Do you recommend my product to your relatives or friends or family? Long term customer. How many years you have been my customer? Credit card companies do that. According to that, your credit limit increases. Repurchase. How many times you have purchased the same item? Imagination cross buying. If you buy, so if you have not bought any other item from my brand, but if I give you a chance, what other products you will buy along with my product? So these are the 5 different dimensions of customer loyalty. So I can measure that and I'll get a very detailed answer. Or I can just say that, okay, based on how long that customer has been my customer, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year, that shows the customer loyalty, right? So I can just measure through a single item, right? So the point is, whenever you have a chance, try to measure it. So then the question is, how do I know that, okay, whether there are 3 questions, 5 questions, right? So that is somewhere either earlier research has been done, or something kind of you have to do a qualitative research. You have to go to the experts, marketing experts, field experts. You will go and ask them that, okay, how do you measure customer loyalty, or how do you measure customer satisfaction? Like I said, if I ask each one of you, what do you, if I ask you to define customer satisfaction, how do you define it? Write 200 words for it. So each one of you will have a different definitions. Then I'll collate that and find out that what is most common, and accordingly I'll prepare my items or questions, right? So is this part clear? What when you talk about single item versus multi-item, to measure the same thing. If I'm measuring customer satisfaction, I can measure with a single item. I can also measure with different multiple items.
Yes, sir.
So this part I think already we have discussed earlier. Just to remember, like whenever we are collecting data for different variables, right? Data can be of different types. Nominal data, I think all of you are clear. Categories. Nominal means just to name, right? Ordinal data, when we can group them and order them, right? Order means I can put in a sequence, either lowest to highest or highest to lowest. So when I say that, okay, what is your gender, male or female, or prefer not to say, I cannot put you in a order. For me, all of you will be in the, obviously there are, I can make groups, but I cannot put them into a sequence. But when I talk about, please tell me which income group you belong to. Less than 5 lakhs, 5 to 10 lakhs, more than 10 lakhs. Now the sequencing can happen. Based on which family income group you belong to, I can put all of you into different sequences. The interval data, when I put you into sequence, can I measure the difference between two groups? Can I measure the difference between two participants, right? If I can measure, if I say that, okay, what is your CGPA? If all of you, I ask your CGPA, I get 8, 8.1, 8.5. Now I can measure the difference, right? So that becomes the interval data. Then what do you mean by ratio? Those interval data which have a universally accepted zero, universally accepted starting point. True zero exists. True zero means that starting point is accepted, commonly understood by everyone. So age we cannot go below zero. I cannot say that, okay, let me start a marketing research where I'll measure age with negative. Those people who were born before 1980s or 90s, then more, let's say somebody who is born in 1980, he will say that I am minus 10-year-old. That is not possible. Everybody will laugh at, because age commonly understood is starting point is zero. Your weight, your income, right? Your expenses can be zero, but it cannot be negative. You cannot say that my expenses are negative this month or my income is negative this month. Income is, there is a starting point, right? So everybody exists. It is not about the negative. Everybody agrees with the starting point. Profit can be negative. You do not make any profit, but that also everybody understands. Profit means where is the starting point? Your revenue minus cost. If cost is more than revenue, that will become negative. But everybody agrees with the starting point whenever it ends, right? But the problem is when I say that your attitude towards, let's say, this movie, or how do you measure your movie ratings? IMDb is 0 to 10. Rotten Tomato may be from 0 to 100. Same thing they're measuring, your attitudes towards a movie, whether you like that, critics or viewers like that movie. So that scale is changing. So you can start it tomorrow, you can start a blog and put a different movie and start rating from -2 to +2. Nobody will say that, Arya, how can you rate a movie minus? Nobody is going to ask you that. Or let's say customers' perceptions towards a brand. Standard scale is 1 to 5. Do not like at all, or like to the best extent. But you can start a scale and say that same Likert scale, but your scaling will be -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, right? So that when it happens, nobody is going to question you. Yes, you are. So there are very few scales which are ratio, at least in social sciences. In physical sciences, more scales like temperature. Temperature is actual interval because we have two differences, Fahrenheit and Celsius. Other than that, if you whenever whatever electron mass, your distance between or the velocity, time it takes to travel certain distance, all those things in physical sciences or health sciences, the time it takes for a bacteria to grow from exponential growth, all those things are basically ratio data, right? It is a starting point, but admitted, universally accepted starting point. But in social sciences, very few things, because same thing we are measuring about the human abstraction, some idea, some abstraction of concept. So my definition might have been different from you. Like same thing, like I said, movie ratings. There are different ways to kind of categorize movie, like rate movies. So it need not be that okay, everybody agrees with the same scale. But if I ask that, okay, what is your income? Your currency might be different. We might be earning in INR. Somebody is USA might be earning in USD. That is the unit of measurement. But scale will remain same. Starting point has to be 0. Your age, your weight, right? So those are the few things which are universally accepted interval scales where starting point is known as starting point is 0, right? So how do you measure it? We'll come back to this later on when we actually do this kind of test. Already some of this we have covered in BRM. Then scaling techniques. Hopefully this has been covered, but because this is related to us, next class we'll discuss how to create scale or how to create different kind of items and discuss that, okay, how we can improve that, right? Then we'll go ahead and do those data analysis. So there are two types of scales, comparative and non-comparative. Comparative, when I ask a respondent to compare between certain products, certain brands, or certain parameters, right? Non-comparative means each of the item, each of the things they're measuring based on their own perception. There is nothing to compare for, right? If I ask you to compare your whatever, let's say any movie, right? I can create a comparative scale or I can create a non-comparative scale. I can show you, let's say these are the 5 movies, rank them from 1 to 5. These are the recent 5 movies, right? So then what happens? I'm giving you options, right? I'm giving you options for comparison. But the same thing, I can create a non-comparative scale. I can say that, okay, in a rating of 1 to 10, 1 being very poor, the worst movie of your life, 10 being the best movie of your life. How do you rate certain movie? So then I'm not giving you an option to compare with something. You are based on your idea, because what kind of movies you have watched, what is your liking or disliking will be different from others, right? Same question, I can put it in a non-comparative thing and in a comparative thing. Depending upon what you are going to study, what is your business objective. Think about in this way, a product manager or fund manager wants to launch a product. right? And he or she wants to understand how the product what he or she is going to launch in the market is stand, or where does it stand in comparison to competitor. Then it can be comparative skills. Better to go ahead with the comparative skills. But let's say there is a market leader. Right now, he is doing a customer perception study for trying to understand the customer satisfaction. That product manager already knows that he has 45% or 55% of the market share. So that part is clear. That part is clear from the market research data. Now, what you want to understand about the satisfaction, whether the satisfaction is increasing over the years or the decreasing, but he wants to understand the customer loyalty. So in that case, he doesn't have to comparison with anything else. He just can ask that, okay, how do you perceive my brand in a rating of 1 to 10 or 1 to 5, right? So paired comparison. So how does it happen? So I create this kind of structure, matrix structure. Now I ask customer. So if there are 4 OTT platforms what you are using, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Hotstar, and YouTube Premium, right? How do you rate Netflix, right? In comparison to the other brands, right? So what is the optional game? So initially this will remain blank. Now first question, and this is better when I'm doing it. So again, you have to remember which type of survey mechanism you are using, whether face to face or online or written. You have given a piece of paper. This part of paired comparison is better if I'm doing one to one, right? I'm standing in front of a customer and asking those questions. Because if I ask the customer to fill this form, right, it will be very confusing for him, right, or her. So now what I ask that customer that, okay, for each pair of OTT platform, please specify the one you prefer. Prefer means one. Do not prefer means zero. So first I'll ask the customer. So compare Netflix to other OTT platforms, what you see. So if that person, this is for a particular respondent. If that person who likes Netflix more than Amazon Prime, one, he also likes Netflix in comparison to Hotstar. So this is happening one comparison, right? Paired comparison means 1 to 1 comparison. Netflix versus YouTube Premium. So every time Netflix he compared with other OTT platform, he always preferred Netflix. So Netflix total score is 1113. Same person when I asked what about Amazon Prime, obviously he has told he likes Netflix in comparison to Amazon Prime, so it remains vacant. Amazon Prime in comparison to Hotstar, he likes Amazon Prime in comparison to Hotstar, so that's why one. He likes Amazon Prime in comparison to YouTube Prime Premium, that is again one. So then what happens? The total score for Amazon Prime becomes 2. Similarly, Hotstar, that person likes Hotstar in comparison to YouTube Premium, so gets 1 score. YouTube Premium, no, because everywhere YouTube Premium was the last choice or least preferred choice, right? So score of 0. So this is the score of one person. Like that, if I do it for 100 respondent or 200 respondent, then I take an average. Whatever score Netflix gets, so the maximum score can be 3, right? Because it is getting compared to other 3 options. So on an average, let's say Netflix got 2.5 or 2.3, Amazon got 2.1 or something less than that. So like that, finally I'll get the summated score for each of those choices. Now you can say that, okay, out of 100 or 200 respondents, my survey, the average score for Netflix came as 2.3, score of Amazon Prime was 1.8 or 2.1, Hotstar was 1.6, and YouTube Premium was 1.2. So it looks like that the most preferred choice is Netflix, right? Then I can do certain statistical testing whether this same thing will remain true for the population. This is true for so sample, right? 2.1 or 1.8 what I got for Netflix, and for Amazon that is true for the sample that I have collected. Whether that remains true for my population, then only we do those hypothesis and statistical testing. We can do a t-testing or ANOVA and find out that, okay, whether the same reality reflects in the population also, right? So this is paired comparison. Rank order scaling. So I give those 5 movies or 5 brands. Then I ask, okay, rank them. So rank and rating, there is little bit difference. We'll discuss that. When I say that rank, Which kind of scale is this? Nominal, ordinal, interval, or ratio? If I ask you to rank this five different type of toothpaste, what you have used, right? Assuming you have used all these five toothpaste. If you have not used, obviously you cannot rank them. So when I say rank, right? So this is the rank we were keeping, right? Later on we'll come back to rating. So do you see that is there any difference? Or let me ask in this way. Rank order question, which kind of scale it will be? Nominal, ordinal, ratio, or interval?
Ordinal.
When it is not interval? Why it will not be interval scale?
Sir, because the difference between rank doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, because we cannot actually measure it. If I say that, okay, what is the difference between close up and Colgate? Difference of 1 and 2.
Yeah. So also the differences between these measurements, but they do not have any zero. So that is why.
No, it doesn't actually have a meaning. It is difference is 1. So if I rank them, I can put them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But what is the difference? 1 difference 2 is 1, 2 difference 3 is 1. So it is not the actual meaning of, I know that, okay, somebody think about in your class. At the end of your second year, somebody will be first, second, third, or 1, 2, 3 up to 10. So this is the ranks. But what is the difference between rank and rank 2? I do not know. What is the difference between rank 1 and rank 10? I do not know. Right? I am not able to measure the difference in marks or difference in CGPA. I do not have that kind of information. Right? And that is where your rank is only showing the order sequence. It doesn't show the difference. How much differ that Colgate close up? When somebody says I put close up on 1 and Colgate in 2 or Pepsodent in 3, what is the actual difference in their attitude or preference? I'm not able to measure. Right? Then other way around, let's say I say that constant sum scaling. So total point, I'll think about in this way. Earlier this market research where we used to happen. So if I ask you, okay, you have 100 points to give, total 100 points, okay, to the college which wherever you are studying. So how do you rate, or when you choose a MBA college, on what basis you choose a college? Based on infrastructure, placement, faculty, specialization available, NIRF ranking, which is most important to you. But what I'm doing it here, I'm making the total as constant. So constant is 100. So it can be 10 also, it can be 50 also, depending upon what kind of research you are doing. That number you have to fix. So that what happens? Everybody is in the same scale. So if I ask you to restrict the total score to 100, so you have to arrange those numbers so that the sum is 100. Then when the other person, other respondent, other potential student rate it, when he puts those numbers, they also need to be at 200. Now what happens? Everybody is in the equal cell. If I leave it open, infrastructure you will put 50 ratings, 60 ratings, somebody NIRF rating will put 30 ratings, right? So if there is no constant sum, so think about it this way: if I have 100 rupees to spend, which rupee will be worth? So in one way they do it in this kind of research, they'll give potential customers some rupees to spend, and they'll try to find out that what is the maximum amount they're spending on certain things. In holiday spend, if I give you 1,000 rupees and I ask you to purchase certain things, so 1,000 rupees like that I give to 100 people. So I spend 1 lakh rupee in my market research and see that, okay, for each person, those 1,000 rupees where on which category of spend they are spending that. Some of you might 600 rupees on fast food. Some of might spend in clothing and all those things, right? So now I'll know that, okay, on an average, if I do this research for 100 customers, what on how much money being spent on an average on clothing, how much money being spent on, let's say, fast food or eating out, how much money being spent on gifting items, right? So I get an idea, right? Same thing here. Obviously, we are not paying any money. We are telling that, okay, keep your all your scores such a that the total score is remaining 100. Total score, sum of scores is constant. So this 100 I have put it here. You can put it 10 also. You can put it 50 also, so that the respondent knows that whatever number he or she is going to put, the total score has to be that 100, 10 or 50, whatever you are putting, right? Only problem with this scale is that it needs little bit of mental calculation. I have put 5 points. If you put 10 points, now in mind, the customer, when they are putting these numbers, they have to calculate what the total should be 100, right? If you have put that calculation mistake or the like kind of logical sequence, logical uh, equation in the Google form, whenever they do mistake, let's say the total sum is more than 100, and they'll not able to answer that question. So there is a chance that people might get frustrated. So if whenever you are using this kind of Google form or online questionnaire, do not use this kind of question only in the physical form. If you're going and meeting respondent and getting answer, you can use this kind of question. Otherwise, what will happen? They'll get frustrated because they'll just put numbers and it is not adding up 100. Arey, yahan pe 5 points more, reduce 5. So answering survey is a tedious job for any of us, right? So try to simplify it. Just put rating scale in that sense if you want to find out this kind of answers. But if it is physical, you're going and getting answers face to face, you can put this question because you can help them in putting those numbers, right? Calculation they have to not do on their own. QSAT, whenever you have lot of options, right? Lot of options, lot of respondent, right? And again, like this is not possible in a online. Again, I'll not say possible. It becomes little difficult. So I think this example we are discussing, I don't know whether I discussed in your class or not. Let's say I ask you about your 2 years of experience in MBA. There are a lot of things which you did and which you are not able to do, starting with classes, quizzes, internal evaluation, exams, like let's say cultural activities, club activities. So there are 50 activities, right? Now what I say that, okay, if these are the boxes, which are the things or which are the activities you liked most, right? Always, frequently, sometimes 50% of the times, occasionally, rarely, never, right? Put those activities in those boxes. So I create this kind of visual arrangement for you. So if you like whatever the like you do not like class assignment ever, so you'll put that in the never box. If you like club activities or workshops half of the time, so you'll put it here, right? So what happens now if I ask those 300 students or 350 students to put, I'll give you those list of 7 or 10 activities, which generally happens in MBA colleges most of the times, starting with evaluation, starting with classroom activities, starting with your club activities, workshops, conferences, going out with friends, all those things. Let's say there are 10 activities where you put, so each one of you will ask, so those squares or the rectangles what you see, one person has put that rectangle here always. Some 5% are put on frequently. Some how many? 3, 2, 5, 3, 8% are put on sometimes, and 10% on 50% of the time. For a particular activity, when I do this, right, 10 students have put on 50% of the time. Let's say taking class or attending classes. 2% have told always. 2% have told never. They don't want to attend any class, right? So this is how I get whenever I have lot of options and lot of respondents, I'll be able to easily get this done, right? But creating, at least in Google form, you will not able to create this. You might need Qualtrics or SurveyMonkey. But yes, physically, if I just put those boxes and I give you a piece of paper, so sometimes survey has to be done physically, and you have all the respondent. You go to a store and you ask, let's say Reliance Retail or Big Bazaar, put those boxes and ask those visitors. So give those 10 seats, give them 50 rupees coupon or 100 rupees coupon and ask them to part of that survey. So coming to the store, which are the things they like, so they'll put in those boxes, right? So you get 10 things. One is like number of items available or pricing of products or pricing of items, the amount of time they spend on searching. So there are different tasks or different activities, right? So where they put those things or which are the items they least like, right? And then you will get an answer. So it becomes little kind of, sometimes rather than just kind of asking questions, which is very or getting answer. Now what you're telling, you are helping them or making them participate in an activity, right? So getting the real answer will be little easier or better than the survey based question. So this is basically mostly used in whenever you have access to participant, access to respondent, so that you can help them be part of those activities, right? But again, online, unless you have a specialized software, carrying out this kind of study becomes little difficult. Then non-comparative. So these are the things when we are comparing certain tasks or certain activities, right? And we are giving those choices, and participant or customers are comparing those choices. Non-comparative, whenever we are not giving those choices and they are based on their assumption, based on their memory, they are putting that rating. So it can be continuous rating or itemized rating, right? Continuous rating is basically 0 to 100 or 0 to 50 or 0 to 10, any point in between, right? So continuous meanings, when I'm rating, if I ask you your CGP or let's say your weight, your age, it need not be exact numbers 20, 21. It can be anywhere between 20.5. It can be anywhere between, if your movie rating, you will say that I like that movie 7.5. So I can put that in a continuous scale, or I can put it as itemized scale. Itemized scale means discrete. That means if I dislike that movie, either I'll put it 1 or 2. If 1 is the worst movie, 1 to 10, 10 is the best movie, and I want to put, I cannot have a choice of 1.5 or 1.2. Either it has to be 1 or 2. So we am reducing the complexity. But in certain cases, continuous scale is required. What is your income? What is your monthly expenses? It is better to put a decimal point. Okay, right? So it need not be very exact. But when I talk about the movie ratings or the attitudes towards certain product, it is better to have discrete. Otherwise, somebody will say 3.4, somebody will say 3.5. How do somebody define 3.4 and how does it measure 3.5? Expenses, yes. If I say monthly expenses, some person is 3,400, somebody 3,500. Obviously, we know the difference. But somebody says 3.4, 3.5. It becomes very complex to measure those things. Continuous rating scales, any number. If I say that what is your expenses, what is your so generally we use for the variables which we know that have a continuous kind of we can measure in a continuous scale, like expenses, income, age, that BMI index. We generally avoid these kind of questions. Very poor, very good. If somebody puts 10.1, somebody puts 20.1, it will be a little difficult. Then Likert scale. Likert scale is the most used, most abused scale. Everybody starts creating Likert scale. Generally, it has a 5 discrete numbers, or 5 discrete, or 7. Most of the times 5, sometimes 7 item scale is used. So this, if you see, this is a itemized rating scale. This is not a continuous scale. Why it is not continuous? Because I cannot choose anything between 1 to 2 or 2 to 3. Either I have to choose 1 or 2. If I'm strongly disagree that okay, whatever government policies was not able to stop the spread of coronavirus, if I dislike, either I'll put strongly disagree or disagree. There is nothing between these two, right? So it is a continuum from strongly agree to strongly disagree, and makes the assumption that attitude can be measured, right? And this is again a big if, right? If I say that I'm measuring in 1 to 5, that is my assumptions, which might be completely different what you believe in, right? So there are different type of alternatives. I can measure the agreement from strongly disagree to strongly agree, frequency, how many times you watch movies by paying rent on YouTube, right? So in YouTube, so there are options where you can pay money and 20, like I think 200 or 100 rupees, and rent that movie for a month or some time, right? So I can measure the frequency also. Never, rarely, sometimes, often, always. So I can put a Likert scale of 1 to 5. 1 is never, 5 is always. Importance. How importance is a company brand whenever you are selecting a placement company for you? Not important, very important. Scale of 1 to 5. Quality. Whenever you are purchasing or whenever you are selecting a restaurant to go, how does food quality matters to you, right? So very poor, excellent. Or how does your mobile phone, if you rate your mobile phone in terms of product quality, how will you rate that? Very poor to excellent, right? Same type of Likert scale, but we are using for different phenomena what we are measuring. How much time I have left? Just 5 minutes. I have only 2 or 3 slides to go. Semantic differential scale. So I keep two opposite end of adjectives, right? How do you feel today? How have you been feeling for last 3 months? Or after that, let's say movie experience, or you went to a like place to visit. How was your experience, right? So same thing. It is similar to your Likert scale, but now what I change, I can change the adjectives, right? So your experience was interesting in comparison to dull. If somebody puts towards the right, that person's experience was towards the experience he or she feels that it was a very poor or dull experience. If it was toward the left hand, it is very interesting experience. Or let's say the like whichever concept or whichever class we are doing today. Does it look very simple or does it look like complex? I ask each one of you and take an average that okay, how does the class feel or how does the class work? Did you participate in the class, passive participation or active participation, right? So if you see in the two end, rather than putting a question and putting those numbers, what we are doing here, semantic differential. Semantics mean the word choices, then differential, both are opposite adjectives. So bipolar adjective, bipolar means two poles, negative pole and positive pole. So one will be positive definition, positive experience, one will be negative attitude or negative experience. Staffel scale, if you see the difference between Staffel scale and your bipolar or semantic differential, you are using two adjectives. In Staffel scale, you only will have one adjective, right? How your phone, how do you rate your phone? High quality, if I +1, +2, +3, +4, +5, then -1, -2, minus up to -5. If I ask you the experience about certain your phone, your the product or any product you are using, rather than putting two opposite adjectives, I can just put one adjective. Now I try to find out your experience. +1 to +5, -1 to -5. If somebody puts somebody put X, that means he has chosen -4. So he has a very negative experience about the product, negative quality experience about that product, right? Or I can put poor service. Let's say whatever broadband or whatever telecom connection you have. How has been the experience? Poor service. Then you rate very poorer or better, right? So difference between this one and difference between the semantic differential is there you used to put two different adjectives. Here only on one adjectives, whether that better version of that experience or negative experience for that adjective what you're putting, right? This tuple scale tends to be easier to conduct and administer because we are using one adjective, right? We do not have to find the always synonym or antonym, right? Or the two bipolar adjectives. Only with one definition, one adjective, we can conduct the test. Then visual communication, this if you see most of the time these applications, any applications you download in Android or Google Play Store, right? So they will like after usage they will say that because this is very easy to like administer, right? You have only three choices: very poor, very good, neutral, right? Even if you use Zomato or Uber or anything, right? Sometimes it will be 5 also, right? So rather than showing so images, people are able to recall and people are able to visualize and give that ratings, right? So if you see these kind of things are very bog or very like used, mostly used in today's world. So then last slide, difference between balanced and unbalanced scale, right? Whenever I have even number of choices, right? Whenever I have choices which are towards positive same, towards negative same, right? Then it is a balanced scale. If one side is, and that is something you have to remember whenever you are creating items, your questions should be balanced. If you see that in the left side, I have 3 options for good, 3 options for bad. How was the experience? Bad, very bad, extremely bad, good, very good, extremely good. But in case of the second part, Game of Thrones season 8 was extremely good, very good, good, somewhat good. So I have 4 choices for good and 2 choices for bad. So uneven choices, unbalanced scale, because I have more choices for good. So I'm actually forcing the how is government doing? Excellent, very good, good, more than average, then poor. So I have out of 5, I have given you 4 choices for good, right? So that will become an unbalanced choice, unbalanced scale. Balanced scale, when I have equal positive and negative amount of information and I ask you to choose that, right? So that is how you create balanced scale, right? Up to this point, I will stop today. Next class will start this. Yes, Nilesh.
Sir, if you don't mind, could you please show the first scale before the Likert scale? Actually, I got disconnected.
Just a moment.
Yes.
Before Likert scale, continuous rating. Is this the one?
Okay, okay, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So continuous rating, which you know that the parameter you can measure in a continuous scale: age, weight, BMI, income, expenses. Generally, we try to measure those things in a continuous scale because we know that if somebody sends 3,500, somebody sends 3,800, it need not be always 3,000 or 4,000. So in those cases, you can measure that in a continuous scale.
Sir, in that graph, you showed that from 0 to 100. Sir,
Yeah.
Is that the parameter for that continuous rating scale, or that is just a random example?
That is a random example. It can be 0 to 100, 0 to 1,000. It depending upon you, right? How you define that scale. It need not be 0 to 100. It can be 0 to 10 also. But what happens? 0 to 10 means it can be any point between 0 to 10. It can be 2.8, 2.9, 5.3. So that is the definition of continuous. If I say that, okay, how happy are you today in a continuous scale? So 0 to 10, any point between 0 to 10. But when I say that it is itemized, it is a discrete. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Nothing between 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 you can choose. Right? So in that case, it will be itemized or discrete scale.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Chalo, thank you. We'll meet next class and start this. Yeah.
So my attendance.
Roll number?
Roll number 77. 077.
Okay.
Sir, 147.
147 Rajiv Anam. Okay.